had already sent that out, and I guess in terms of protocol, if, I don't know whether it's best just to send yet a second one out if it needs to be updated, or just announce it during the.
I think it's best just to announce it.
Okay.
No big deal.
Yeah, we are live, gang.
Okay.
Okay, does anyone know if screen sharing is enabled? Because I've got.
You asked me about that.
Screen sharing is enabled.
Yeah, I see.
Okay, good deal.
So Regis, I think Stefanski took a step toward the Coach of the Year.
Well, I would think so. I mean, when you're not even coaching, when you're quarantining in your basement and the rest of the staff is well prepared enough to play a game like that, I don't know. I don't know who else it could be.
OBJ predicted they're going to win this weekend.
Well, I won't put a lot of money on it based on OBJ say so, but it would help if he were playing.
Yes.
Okay, 2 minutes till we start.
Regis, Richard said you were behind him on the golf course.
Yeah, I saw him. I'm not sure what he was. Maybe I don't think he was in a group immediately in front of us. Maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah,
I did see him this morning.
he saw you.
Actually, not a bad day for January.
Supposed to be the best day of the week, I think.
He said a guy in an orange shirt hit a ball at him. I was just.
But Richard loves orange too, so.
Tell you what,
burnt orange.
Burnt orange, not bright orange.
I just love the coloring on the courses. I just love that outlining. It just really stands out. It's very nice.
Yeah, goes in the fairway, so I wasn't there much today. It does look nice.
Yeah, that's the only problem. It accentuates mishits.
It's been so long since I've even been out. It's like,
oh, me too.
I dread it.
Yeah. Do they do it on Choctaw or just the visible ones?
All of them.
All of them. Good.
Lydell believes it helps green up in the spring.
Yeah, that's what.
Really?
Yeah, he not based on any scientific or agronometric, if there is such a word, analysis.
I like that. Agronometric. That's the word of the day.
Can I look at it? I'm on it right now.
Agronometrics.
But he just said it was his observation.
Join the meeting.
So, yeah, the street that they would green up earlier in the spring. So.
Okay, we're about to announce the beginning of the meeting. All right, it's been a lovely day here at Big Canoe, and it's 5 p.m.
Okay. Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. This is our first meeting for 2021, and we'll begin as we have in the past with Scott Hour's administrative report, and then segment for business, and then Q&A after we adjourn. Scott.
Thank you, Candace, and Happy New Year to everybody. Thank heavens that year with the 0 at the end of it is over. So we're all trusting this is going to be a little more positive than the last one, although the winter months are starting out a little tough, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel and it's not a train. So anyway, I wanted to update everybody on where we are with our knowledge about the Lake Pettit Dam. You may all recall that we asked Geosyntec a number of months ago to do a pretty comprehensive analysis of the whole history of the dam. They did that. They came up with 833 pages of documentation, photographs, construction drawings, letters with the Department of Natural Resources. And they have Geosyntec as actually an internationally known company that focuses on engineering for places like the Tennessee Valley Authority. So they are they're known in the industry as a pretty progressive, very buttoned up organization. So they have delivered a preliminary report to us, which has a number of different factors associated with it. And we had a presentation this week, and want to say that the board was involved in that. Several people from the audit and risk committee were involved. We had a gentleman who's a property owner, who's a former engineer, who has some expertise in this area, was also there, and people of our staff. So pretty good cross section of the community. And the first and really most important thing that everybody wants to know is the dam safe? And the answer coming back from Geosyntec is absolutely, the dam is safe under normal operating conditions. And what does that mean? So kind of means that if you look at the last 6 of the last 8 years in Georgia have been incredibly wet. And actually, I just got numbers today. We had 94.5 inches of rain last year. And in 2019, we had 85.7. And the normal over 31 years is 69. So if it feels like it's been wet, it has been wet. And despite the fact that it has been wet, all the internal measurement readings of the dam have looked good during that period of time. And we have never remotely come close to having an issue with water getting near the top of the dam, which is one of the things you worry about with an earthen dam. So they would say that the dam is stable, meets all the Georgia requirements for stability as well as seismic stability. And also they commended the POA. They said, we really, really wish that there were as many organizations like you guys in Georgia, because there's a lot of dams here and many people have neglected their dams for many years and nobody's being necessarily proactive. And when Geosyntec gets involved, people ask, well, how much will it take to even inspect the dam? And as soon as Geosyntec tells them, they say, thanks, enough. So you're lucky to live in Big Canoe. It's good. We pay attention, and Geosyntec was pretty pleased. Now, that being said, it's a little like your car. We have a very nice sports car here. I particularly prefer Mustangs, are my favorite actually, but I learned to drive on one. And if you have a Mustang that's 40 years old at this point, and you haven't done much to it, and you hear a noise and you take it to your mechanic, he might say, well, the body looks pretty good, but at this point, your sway bar linkages are shot, your CV joints are leaking, you really need a brake job, and oh, by the way, the tranny needs rebuilt. So, that's a little bit where we are with the dam, where it's safe, it's stable, but there's definitely some systems that need to be updated. And so we're working through with Geosyntec, what are the right sequencing to do on things? What are the right alternatives? Which things should be bundled together? Which things can be done in what time frame? And just to give people an idea, right now they have come forward and they said over 4 to 5 years, you guys should look at a range of maybe $3 to $4 million of investment in the dam. And first reaction is like, oh my gosh, that's $3 to $4 million. What does that mean to the POA? Well, I would say that having spent a lot of time with the finance committee and with our CFO, Jane, and with Bobby Jones-Links, with their CFO, we have a very robust cash flow model in place now for Big Canoe. So we've looked at different scenarios, and the bottom line is, even if it is in the $3 to $4 million range over 3 to 4 years, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. So there are definitely things that we need to keep doing. There's things we need to repair. It's not just the dam that has some old systems. As we know, Creek 9 has some old systems. Some of our buildings have old systems. There's stuff we need to do. And the good news is we can. And the other good news is the POA has been pretty proactive in preparing for this. If you look at our audited financial statements going back several years, there is very clear comments about, the POA needs to reserve money for future dam, work and maintenance. And so that is part of why we have a $2.8 million restricted capital fund in place that is really set up primarily for dams, roads, and bridges. So it's not like this is a surprise. It's not like we're in some, oh my gosh, what are we going to do now? This was pretty much anticipated. Now, however, as I said, this is a preliminary report. That's a preliminary range of money. And we want to be very, very transparent with the community. So as we are working with Geosyntec over the next few weeks to refine this, we're looking to do a community coffee, Zoom community coffee, to be safe with the whole community. And we'll have Geosyntec there. I'll be there. We'll have some people from finance there. And that way everybody can ask questions. We can talk about dam history. We can talk about path forward. We can talk about, the financial aspects associated with it. So think of this as just the first of several, progressively more detailed updates that we'll be doing like over the next 6 weeks. So look for more information. I think Smoke Signals is actually going to do an article because they had this on their schedule to catch up with us and see where we are at this point. They did one last summer, so it's time to do an update. So a lot more to come, but we're in good shape. There's nothing to be alarmed about, and this is what you pay us for. This is what we do for a living. So more to come. Next topic is COVID. As you can tell from the numbers that are circulating in the news media and things like that, this is a pretty scary time. I would just give you an update from an employee standpoint. Throughout all of last year, we had 46 individual cases where people had to isolate or self-quarantine while we were waiting for results, or that didn't get tested, and we followed the 2-week isolation protocol from the CDC. We had 11 actual COVID cases that tested positive all last year. This year, a week and a half into this year, we have 18 individual cases where people are at home and isolating, and we've had 6 people test positive in a week and a half. So we are definitely, we're not a bubble anymore. There was a time where I think we all thought like, oh, this is going to be okay. Big Canoe is going to escape. We're not going to escape. This is why we mandated masks, as uncomfortable as they can be. I don't personally enjoy being in meetings with masks, but I wear them. And, same thing in all of our POA facilities, social distancing. We've got to keep going. The cavalry is coming. As Tim Moran did a beautiful job for us this week, putting out an email saying, here's everything we know. Here's all the places to get a vaccine. What you find is, as soon as Tim says, as soon as he's writing those emails and testing the links, by the time it actually goes out, the links are already broken. People aren't answering their phones. They're overwhelmed. So basically, our job is, we see it as our job is to be informative. We can't fix the fact they don't answer their phones. We can't fix the fact that their links are broken, but we will continue to tell you everything we know as we know it. And you just got to stay on it. You just got to be calling the Department of Public Health. We learned today that Ingalls Pharmacy is basically booking appointments. So you can go on to Ingalls.com, you can actually get an appointment. Bell's Pharmacy in Jasper, they're doing the same thing. So not just saying eventually we'll get to you, but like I know people that actually got appointments today at Ingalls for early next week. So, you know, please, we'll keep updating you, but ultimately that's the thing. We just got to get everybody vaccinated as fast as we can. And until then, you know, and even after then for a while, because we won't know who's vaccinated and who's not, we got to keep our guard up. We got to do all the same things that we're all tired of doing, but you got to keep doing them. So that's where we are in COVID. Project updates, much more fun to talk about. I like good news better than bad news. The Spruce Up campaign has got a couple more feathers in the cap, notches in the belt kind of thing. Duffers has been updated for the first time in, I don't know, ever maybe. It's painted. We have brand new countertops. Tim did a beautiful job of getting some beautiful colored pictures of golf, and you might see yourself in one or two of those pictures, but Duffers looks a lot better, and that's nice. Clubhouse Interior. Clubhouse is closed right now. We're working on new menus that are going to be revealed here in a couple weeks. Staff is going through all kinds of training with Bobby Jones Links. And the Clubhouse Interior, we have a long punch list of stuff that needed to be done, including the floors, which look real beautiful right now. All of that is being done to get ready for the opening, which is just about a week and a half away, I think. And let's see what else can I tell you. Claytech court conversion is also complete, and the tennis facility looks great. You walk out on the deck there and look over these courts now, and instead of having these terrible eyesores right in the middle, have these beautiful new Claytech courts. So it looks terrific. Creek 9 renovation is underway. Nothing too exciting yet. It will get more exciting and dramatic here in the next couple of months. But right now, Lydell and crew are working on some bunker demos. Those are not sand castles being built in the middle of the bunkers. They are removing sand from all the edges of the bunkers and things like that. So you'll see some sand castles in the middle of our bunkers. And also select, and this is really important, select tree removal is going on. There are certainly some places where we're going to reposition greens and we need better growing conditions. So we're not chopping down all the trees on the golf course. We're taking out a few select trees where we need to. And that was part of Bill Bergen's master plan. And Bill knows what he's doing. He's very, very well thought of in the Southeast. He's done this plenty of times. So that's kind of going on now. And also going to the Finance Committee next week, we have 2 brand new projects, which we have been working on and getting quotes and following all of our policies and procedures. One is the rebuild of the Bocce facility, and the renderings look stunning. We would be very, very proud to have that as a new amenity. And the indoor tennis facility is also so in need of a redo. And that includes painting, it includes new insulation, it includes fixing a leaking roof. It's well overdue. So we are working both of those things through the Finance Committee. We'll be taking those to the board soon for approval, and then actually letting out contracts. The Bocce could start within the next few months, and indoor tennis would start in the spring once all the tennis players can move back outside again. So that is, that's kind of a 50,000-foot flyover. I just also wanted to let you know that we have several teams that are part of long-range planning that are working with the staff now to continue working through the chimneys renovation and moving that forward. And the other thing that we're very well aware of that we need to take care of is the safety problems at the post office and the package problems at the post office. I've got a good relationship now with the Jasper Postmaster. We have spoken twice today. We're not quite ready for a big announcement yet, but we're working on some plans that I think will definitely help the package situation, because especially with the COVID numbers, the package situation is not going to get better. So we need to take care of it. So just so you know, we are very aware. We had a car go off the edge of the postal facility yesterday. Thank heavens nobody was hurt, but we are going to take care of that problem, and we are going to address the packages also. So more to come on those things, but we're on it. So That's Candace, that concludes the report for now.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Well, I'd like to begin by just thanking everyone who voted for the capital contribution fee in December. We had, I think, a good turnout, particularly given the time of the year of somewhere around 55%, and vote in favor was over 80%. So I think that was outstanding. I'd also like to thank the members of my work group that helped us from probably late April, May, all the way through the summer months. And that was Bob White from Finance, Jim Braley, and Joe Thompson from Long Range Planning, Tom Durbin, Michelle Topes, and Jeff Mayer. And then as we put a program together, I want to thank Dick Hamill, Mark DeLavina on the communications, and then Tim Moran for handling the sending out some ballots at the end of the year when the Postal Service was a little bit slow in delivering some. Secondly, I'd like to make mention that we'll vote next week on the new members that have been selected from the Audit Risk Committee. And they're all very, very well qualified folks. The first one is a Richard Zatorsky, who has a background as a fellow of the Casualty Actuarial Society. And secondly is a Jeff Weigel, whose background also is in insurance as a chartered property casualty underwriter. And then we have someone who is a Randy Gregson, who is an audit partner with Ernst & Young. And then finally, Wade Starling, whose background is actually in working with Frito-Lay for a number of years in Atlanta, but most recently he's been working as the financial administrator for a large church. So the committee is a total of 7. Normally they would be replacing 3, but one person resigned this year, and so that's why there'll be 4 members that will be voting on next Thursday, and Vince Walsh will be the chair of this committee for the next year. The next item on our agenda is the governance task force. Amy, do you want to?
I do. Yeah, it's just a brief update. We've gotten many excellent resumes, and thanks to everybody who volunteered their time. We'll be finalizing the selections early next week, and the board will confirm the team at next week's board meeting on the 21st. We may expand the team slightly to divide and conquer, and may also rotate new members on as the project progresses in case people roll off. The first order of business is to tackle our bylaws, particularly to allow for electronic voting and to simplify the quorum process. We'll be sure to keep you all up to date each month as we go along.
Thanks, Amy. Next topic this evening is a professional registry, and Lou Stevenson's going to give us an update on when we opened for business, so to speak, in December, where we stand in terms of the number of folks that have volunteered to offer their services.
Thanks, Candace. Well, you know, despite the COVID virus challenges and such, we did get this registry kicked off, and I can proudly announce right now we're sitting right at 50 interested residents who have donated a willingness to share their expertise and time in projects that we have upcoming. I just wanted to show for those who are not knowledgeable of how to find out about the program and how to register. I had a few slides here on the Big Canoe website to show them where it's situated underneath clubs and organizations. And if you tap on that, then you'll see the professional registries listed right there. Then you can go in there and register, list your skills and expertise. And the beauty of this program is whether you want to just give a little bit of referral service, or if you want to be a part of a committee, or whether you just want to sit in on a project. It's very flexible, and of course we welcome the expertise and your willingness to serve. So far, the projects, next slide, that we've got the Creek 9 we've talked about, and of course the CCF task force that Candace mentioned, and Amy is going to be overseeing the governance task force. and Regis will be overseeing the strategic plan. So all of these projects have been, well, they still are listed, but of course the ones in green are the projects that are currently active. We welcome expertise. Sorry about that printing. I don't know what happened to it, but backgrounds from a myriad of different areas. We can use information and expertise from a variety of areas. And again, I mentioned whether it be just for a couple of questions, a limited advisory capacity, or even serving on a committee such as Amy's initiating. It's appreciated, and your knowledge and experience is just priceless. So just in quick closing, I wanted to say, for those of you who have signed up, thank you. I think Scott, and I can tell you the board, we look forward to partnering with you. What you've provided for us as far as support in 2020, and we look forward in 2021. And for all new residents and those who haven't, we look forward to hearing for you, seeing your applications in 2021, and we appreciate your time and consideration. Thanks.
Thank you, Lou. Regis, do you want to bring us up to date on your strategic plan project?
Certainly, I can do more than that. I am going to need to share my screen because you can't talk strategy without PowerPoint. So here we go. Okay, well, we have been talking about the strategic plan for a couple of months now. The property owners may recall that the board has actually established doing a thorough review and overhaul, so to speak, of our strategic plan. That is one of our goals for 2021. So we have had some discussions about it. There's been some different opinions as to how we may want to proceed with this. And a few months ago, a gentleman by the name of Rich McLeod, who is actually on our long range planning committee and has an extensive professional experience with strategic planning, came forward and he said he would like to help get involved with this, because he has certainly some thoughts as to how we might want to proceed with this initiative. So we are going, the first slide is actually a planning process overview, and then we're going to look specifically at strategic planning, because obviously there's a number of different kinds of plans and at different levels in the organization. But we're first going to talk about the planning process overview, and then we're going to talk about the how we feel we should go about kicking off the strategic plan process. So a couple of guiding principles. Number one, the planning, obviously you're looking out into the future. The future is murky enough. No one has a crystal ball. So that makes it all that more important that the planning we do is going to be based on data and facts as opposed to opinions or prevailing knowledge or whatever. So as part of this process, we are going to do a lot of what's called data mining. We are also going to reach out to our property owners by way of surveys, by way of focus groups, to understand really what the community, what the property owners feel about some of these very important issues that are facing the community. So fact-based as opposed to opinions or, like I said, so-called common knowledge. We're looking at 4 components of the planning process. The highest level is vision. What do we want to be? It's extremely important because the entire process revolves around our vision. So that is first and foremost, it is critical that we nail that. Next is a strategy. Once we establish a strategy, or once we establish a vision, what we want to be, the strategy is how we get there at a very high level. You can see the vision is from the PowerPoint, it is reviewed every 5 to 10 years. You don't change your vision. Once you go through a robust process to establish that vision, you don't go changing it every other year based on 2 or 3 new board members coming in, or a new GM or what have you. So the vision is pretty much cast in concrete. You look at it, but typically, at least in the corporate world that I'm used to, where I did strategic planning, you really look at revising that every 5 to 10 years. So then the strategy, how we will get there at a high level, is reviewed annually, but it's not updated that frequently. If you do a good job of establishing strategies, you should not be constantly revising them. Otherwise, it's an invitation to organizational chaos. Then there's long-term plans. These would be kind of like our master plan projects. And we would be looking at those every 3 to 5 years. And then your short-term, I'll use one of my friend Bill Shaw's favorite expressions, business plans. Those would be regular and ongoing improvements. They would be, a budget would be considered a short-term plan. So to sum things up, the vision drives a strategy. The strategy drives both long-term and short-term planning. And as part of this, we do have a long-range planning committee. That is likely going to evolve into a planning committee. So that charter and the mission of that committee is in all likelihood going to change. Any questions from the board on those particular points? No. Okay. So we are now, that's the overview of the planning process. We are going to speak specifically of the strategic planning, and I'm calling the strategic planning and deployment, because a strategic plan is great, it's good, but unless you actually deploy the plan, it's pretty much useless. So on the, reading the chart from top to bottom, you see the 2 arrows on the left and right side of the slide. You start at a very high level with strategy, and then as you go down this flow chart, so to speak, it becomes more and more tactical, the day-to-day plans. And then on the right side, you see responsibility. At the very highest level, it would be the board, with input certainly from management as well as the community. The overall strategy is the board's responsibility, but as you go down through the strategic objectives, some of the analysis you do, it becomes more and more the responsibility of management. So at the top of the chart, you've got your mission, your vision, and your values. As we talked about before, the vision, what you want to be is really what's really the engine that drives the whole process. From the vision, you arrive at, and the vision, we currently do have a vision statement. I don't have it memorized, but it's something to the effect of we want to be the preeminent community in the preeminent mountain community in the southeastern United States. So that's what we want to be, and everything we do should be we're going to be driving to accomplish that vision. Now that vision, it's been a while. I think it was developed in 2015. So we are going, as part of this process, we need to take a good hard look at it. Your strategic objectives, that kind of translates the vision into something more concrete. And that is 3 to 5 high-level goals required to achieve the vision. So what is the preeminent mountain community in the southeastern United States, Maine. Well, we currently have 4 strategic goals or strategic objectives. One of them is to be prudent stewards of our environment. Another one is the employer of choice. One is to improve the reputation of Big Canoe. And the 4th has something to do with finances. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's to take good care of property owner resources. So you've got those 4 strategic objectives. Then that flows down to, and this is really the heart of the strategic planning process. You do what's called situational analysis. You know, what your current equilibrium is and what you want, where you have to, what you want it to be. So as is and to be. You know, where we are, a realistic evaluation of where we are now compared to what our vision says we should be. So you do things like gap analysis, SWOT, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, competitive analysis, which is benchmarking. So once you go through all that, the next level down is that's where you get into your more tactical plans. You have your management annual goals and objectives, and at that same level, you will start looking at your master plan, which we currently have, but as I said before, it's going to be subject to revision based on strategies. And then ideally, once the GM and you know, the management team, which is GM and Bobby Jones Links, they have their annual goals and objectives. You set goals and objectives for staff and departments. They have their individual goals and objectives, which in turn support the general manager, which in turn support our strategic objectives, which support our vision statement. Any questions on that?
Regis, do you have, I know this is a moving target to some extent, but do you have an idea right now about the length of time that it will take to put this whole program in place?
Let me go through, I have individual steps as to what, you know, we and Rich, myself, and Scott sat down on Monday and we went through this and came up with the step-by-step process. Some of this, you know, I don't see any reason why it can't be done in terms of our mission and our vision and our strategic objectives. That probably could be done in 3 months. When you get into the situational analysis and getting into lower levels, it's going to take longer depending on, you know, how thorough you want to do the job of the situation analysis. So,
thank you.
Getting into the process itself, we've talked about this before. We think we need to form a strategic planning work team / task force. The 7 board members would be part of this. We feel that we need 3 to 5 property owners as part of this team based on their, you know, again, to get more diversity in terms of, we have a lot of new property owners. There's a lot of property owners that don't look like the board anymore. So we certainly need that kind of input. General manager is integral to this process. Long-range planning committee representative, which would be Rich McLeod. He has offered to chair this task force or head this work team. And then Whitney Krause from Bobby Jones Links has also been expressed interest in being involved. Now, I'm not going to go a lot into the step 2, which is the initial meeting where we go into specifics of the process, because I've probably already talked too much already, but you have an overview of what Rich and I and Scott agree the process should look like at a very high level. And then step by step, we're talking about what we need to do in the first meeting, and so on until we're at the point of formulating, reviewing, and approving GM and staff goals. So if that will conclude my presentation. If anyone, obviously you will all have copies of this presentation emailed to you, and perhaps we could talk about it in more detail in our next get together, or if there's any questions at all now, I'd be certainly happy to try and answer them.
Okay. Thanks, Regis.
Okay.
There's an item that I did not include on the agenda, and it's very important. Bob Crouch would like to provide us with a vaccination update.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Candace. As Scott said in his administrative report, getting an appointment has been sheer chaos. Part of it was driven by the governor opening up tier 1 to 65, all 65 and over in Georgia. That's 1.5 million people. So the good news is it's opened up. The bad news is the counties weren't prepared to handle that expeditiously. Recognize the extreme difficulty in getting an appointment. Once you get that appointment, my experience with getting the vaccine this week was very positive. I would encourage everybody who has an appointment and wants the vaccine to in fact show up for that appointment. There was something on the news last night about the possibility of wasted vaccine because some people are not showing, and part of that probably has to do with making multiple appointments. And as difficult it is to make an appointment, it's probably just as difficult to cancel that appointment. But if you get confirmation and are not going to, if you got your vaccine somewhere else, please cancel it so you don't take that opportunity away from someone else. One thing I'd like to clarify about Pickens County Health Department is where I got my vaccination. I've seen posts that they will not honor Dawson County residents from Big Canoe. They will. They don't ask. There is no county whatsoever in there. So if you have that appointment, please keep it. Don't be concerned that you're going to be turned away at the door. One other thing I will say is that this is such a fluid, dynamic thing. I think last Thursday, the governor got on television and said proudly that the state has the capacity to give 11,150, some number like that, vaccinations a day. On the news last night that between Tuesday and Wednesday, the state administered over 47,000. So we went from 11,000 to 47,000 in a week. So stay tuned, stay informed. We will do everything we can to keep the communication flowing and keep the faith, and we'll get that vaccine distributed widely.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Candace.
The last item of business tonight is just an update, a communications update on our format for our working session on the second Thursday of each month, which would be tonight. We have done a lot of thinking about trying to make it more interactive. And what we have decided to try is we will still have a briefing of what the board has done over the last month, but a larger portion of that session will be devoted to Q&A. And what I mean is that back in July, we initiated Ask the POA website and or email for property owners to ask questions. And I think some 2,300 we've received as of just a few days ago. And what we'd like to do, one, is to, on a monthly basis, provide input into the trends that have occurred over the last 30 days, the types of questions and answers, because currently we're responding to the individual property owners, but we haven't really summarized, you know, some of the trends that are occurring, where they'd be certainly answers to some questions that other property owners would like to know. So that'll be a component of this meeting. And then we're also going to ask if you would like to submit questions before the meeting. And then also if you would like to submit questions like we're currently doing during the meeting. So we're going to try that for a couple of months and see the response we get. And hopefully it'll be interactive and more provide more information on a current basis. That's all I have for this evening. And could I get a motion to adjourn, and then we can go into the...
Candace, could I make a comment?
Sure.
I'd like to make a comment on the dam. We have, because of the robust property sales in Big Canoe, we may have as many as 50% of our residents new in the last 4 or 5 years. They may have seen the range of numbers that Scott talked about and been either surprised and or shocked. It is not a surprise or a shock to anybody that's been in Big Canoe for any period of time, and particularly to the board. We all know that the history of Big Canoe, that we're going to celebrate our 50th anniversary next year. There was another key milestone just 15, 16 years ago when we transitioned to self-governance. That means that the developer governed the POA, had the majority power for 35 years. When we became self-governing, we were investigating any implications of the dam. That started out very, very early on in 2005. One of the things that we determined was, because of the potential for significant maintenance, we needed to be financially prepared for that. So the first step we took was a capital contribution fee about a decade ago vote that was turned down by the property owners. After it was turned down, we came up with another plan B, and plan B was to create a restricted capital fund. As Scott mentioned, that capital fund is now available with over $2.8 million. Subsequent to that, just very recently, there was a $25 increase of assessment earmarked for master plan projects. And even more recently, in the last couple of weeks or month, we had a vote on the capital contribution fee that was successful, and that will be providing additional money for projects. All of those things, as Scott had mentioned, has put us in great financial position to coexist with whatever dam expenditures need to be in master plan items. And as Scott mentioned, the modeling that is available, I'm sure you're going to be very impressed with what some of the possibilities are when we have the Zoom community coffee meeting.
Thanks, Bob. Okay.
Candace, I think we may have overlooked the questions from the board for our general manager that we typically have an opportunity.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. We did do that.
No problem. It's your first time. We're giving you wide latitude here.
Okay. Okay. So does anyone have any questions of Scott on the board?
Sorry, gotta go.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I do.
Okay, Regis.
Okay, on the dam.
Yeah.
Scott, a couple of things. Geosyntec, I know that we've been, you know, as you mentioned, we commissioned them a few months ago to do the study that we received the preliminary results from earlier this, or preliminary report earlier this week. How long have we had a relationship, and how long have they been involved with review, analysis, and making recommendations as to the maintenance of our dam?
Yeah, it's an awesome question. They were brought in first in 1998, so they go back that far. And at that time, the again, I think past administrations have been proactive, and there was concern at that point of time that we needed to totally understand 20 years into the life of the dam, what the stability looked like and whether it met all the requirements of Georgia Safe Dams. So Geosyntec was brought in to do that very detailed analysis and to work with Georgia Safe Dams, and they were very successful in that. Georgia Safe Dams then, at that point in time, used to send out inspectors basically, once a year to check your class 1 dam. And they transitioned over the years to a self-inspection program where they said once a year you need to have an engineer come out, once every 2 years you need to have an engineer come out, and the rest of the time you can self-inspect. So we kept Geosyntec on to be that engineering firm. So they have a long history going back to '98 and multiple inspections. And then a few years ago, the POA decided, you know what, this is important enough that we'd like Geosyntec to do the quarterly inspection. So even though Georgia Safe Dams only required a engineering report, every once a year at that point, we decided self-reporting on something that's this important. Why would you do that? So we actually spent a little extra money and said, no, we want Geosyntec to be the folks that are out here 4 times a year. And they've been doing that since 2017 for us. So that's paying great dividends now because they have that whole history. And so when we ask them, as the rainfall's been changing and that kind of thing, they have access to all the instrument readings. They know what the reports have been going to Georgia Safe Dams about. And so they're not on a horribly steep learning curve. They're just kind of ready to jump in and do the next work that we need them to do. It was interesting on the call the other day, they were able to actually tap into someone who had retired from Geosyntec. And this gentleman has been involved with Big Canoe as the Geosyntec representative since 1998. So he was a wealth of information about every conversation that has gone on with Georgia Safe Dams going back to that period of time. So it's great to have that stability and that history with a top-notch engineering firm. So long answer, but a long time.
Great news. Good information.
Yeah.
The second question I had is, you mentioned we're going to have this community coffee. Any idea as to what the timing on that might be?
Yeah, I think we're going to be ready with Geosyntec to do that towards the end of February. We have been, we looked at the report with them and took feedback from the board and all the engineering folks who have been kind of involved in this project, and said, we'd like you to look at this. How about this? Does this need to happen first? Kind of help us with that a little bit. So I would give them until the end of February, and then we'll set it up. We'll set it up in advance so everybody can get their questions in and things like that. But that's my timing, I think.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before we adjourn? Okay. Well, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Second. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. Tim, do you have any questions coming in right now?
We do have a couple of questions for you from our audience. Cindy Bilbo, lot number 4824, missed some of the dam update and the investment needed. Could you please review this again?
Cindy, you missed that eloquent speech the first time. Sure. So basically, the report we got from Geosyntec, which right now is very preliminary and lays out possibilities, and there's further investigation that's necessary to get it to the point that it's what I would call an actionable plan. But we did ask them for planning purposes so we could start this with the finance committee and with the board, what would be the potential range of costs? So they were looking at something on the range of $3 to $4 million over a 4-year period of time. So we have pretty extensive cost modeling capability now because we've spent some time in the last 6 months building all that. So looking at that and kind of worst casing it almost, we feel that we're in pretty darn good shape. I mean, as Regis said, we have the $2.8 million. It does need to, if we borrow from that restricted capital fund, it does need to be repaid within 3 years. So we have looked at that and said, well, how much potentially might we have to take out of there, and how would we repay that within 3 years? And again, there's nothing there that's scaring me. There's nothing there that's alarming. And most importantly, again, my comment about walking and chewing gum, we know there's other stuff we need to do. We can't just stop everything and say, oh, we're just going to worry about the dam. We have multiple systems in Big Canoe that need updating. And so we're factoring all that into the modeling, and we'll have a lot more information about that at the community coffee. But my preliminary looks, this is not a shock. We have been preparing for this, and I think we're in pretty good shape.
Thanks, Scott.
All right. The second question Scott just answered, actually. Robert Adams, lot number 1044, asked about the restricted capital fund needing to be replenished in a certain amount of time. Could you explain that?
Yep. 3 years is by covenant.
All right. Thank you very much. Those are all the questions from the audience.
Okay. Scott, or Regis.
Scott, a follow-up question to Cindy Bilbo's. You talked about a $3 to $4 million range. Is that worst case, or is it too early to attempt to answer that question?
We asked Geosyntec that, and they felt, I would say they would say at this point, it's fairly representative based on their experience with many other dams and knowing our situation really well. That's probably a really good planning estimate. Could it vary a little bit one way or the other? The answer is yeah, we're too soon to know that exactly. But they said, you know, those are good numbers to work with. It's not just grabbing something out of the sky.
Okay.
Bob Littell, did you have a question?
Yeah, Scott, I think it's important to remember too what's going to happen in 2026 when how much are we currently paying for the elimination of the debt on the clubhouse? Yep,
that frees up $1 million a year for us basically to use for other things. But you know that goes right back to Regis's presentation about.
Exactly.
It starts with vision, it starts with strategic plan, it goes down from there. It's nice to know that's coming, but it doesn't really affect what we need to do in the next 3 to 4 years, which is sort of my time horizon right now. But I'm really glad we're starting this process. So when we get 3 to 4 years further down the road, we're not going to be sitting here saying, what is the master plan? I don't know what it is. So it's great. We're kind of working both things in parallel. It's good.
Okay. Phil.
Scott, can you give a little update on staffing of the North Gate and also the update on the trash facilities, kind of what's going on?
Yep. So as you may recall, we approved restaffing the North Gate 24/7 as part of the approved budget for this year. And you know, you can debate that all day long. I look at it like I'm a property owner. When I came here, one of the reasons that I came here was my wife felt safe. She wanted to move to a community where she felt we had 24/7 security capability. And there's been enough, you know, instances where someone's tried to push open a gate or something like that, that we just said, that's part of who we are. That's Big Canoe. That's part of our value proposition. So, we're doing it. So basically we're hiring. If anybody wants to work in the North Gate at 2, 3 in the morning, call Adriana, she'll sign you up. But anyhow, we are working on staffing that currently. As I mentioned with the COVID situation, you know, we're struggling a little bit. Our public safety department is down a bit, and so is our public works. So response time on things might be a little less than they usually are, or if it snows again, which I'm glad it's not supposed to for about a week and a half, you know, we may not be able to clear a road quite so quickly. So just be a little bit more patient. And what was your other question?
Trash facility. Trash facility.
Trash facility. So I mentioned thank you. I mentioned the situation at the post office. The two things I hear most often and that I experience too, again, because I live here also, is post office problems. I mentioned that we're trying to tackle that, and I think we're onto something good with a good relationship now with the postmaster. Second is the trash facility. So a couple of things are being done there. We are installing, or will be shortly installing, security cameras that can be used the way that the post office camera is. So you'll be able to actually log on to the website and look and see, you know, which light bulbs are red and which ones are green. So before you drive all the way down from Sanderlin or something and find out the recycling bin's totally full, you'll be able to check that. Kind of a simple thing, but a nice thing to do. Second thing we're doing is we are making that a transponder activated gate and also card reader. So that way you can have a situation where someone is, you know, maybe a contractor or something who is paid to haul stuff away, and they decide instead it's just easier to pocket the money and dump it in our bin, in which case we pay. To, you know, the property owner kind of gets their money stolen, and we pay basically to have that stuff hauled away. So that doesn't sound fair. So anyhow, we're making a few changes like that. Timing on that, all that equipment's been ordered. As soon as it arrives in Public Works, again, as soon as Public Works can get it installed, I would think within the next, probably next 2 months, you'll see that in operation.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay. Tim, any other questions that came in?
We do. Bob Crouch has a question, and we have
that's
one,
right.
one question.
Okay, it's another follow-up to Cindy's question, Scott. Are any of the repairs urgent, and what's our priority going to be in 2021 relative to the dam?
So there's nothing that's a immediate safety concern. So it kind of goes back to my car analogy. You know, you've got a little sound and the guy's like, yeah, you got to take care of this on the next visit. That's kind of where we are. So we clearly know that there is the need to do some patching to the spillway. It was done once before. Last time we had a drought, actually, and the water dropped below the spillway level. We were able to thoroughly inspect it and fix that. It goes back a few years. So it's time to do that again. And that buys us a little time to get anything we do to a spillway, for example, has to go through Georgia Safe Dam. So there are part of this plan that's being put together with Geosyntec is there are analysis things, hydraulic analysis type of things that have to be done. That turns into a design project of what we want to do. That turns into a submission to Georgia Safe Dams. Georgia Safe Dams is a governmental agency. They'll take a little time with it, maybe a year. And then at that point in time, we're given the okay to begin the construction, and they would be part of monitoring that construction and things like that. So, you know, I don't expect to see any major construction projects in the next, 18 months. But there's a lot going on behind the scenes to get ready for that. The most immediate thing is to really find a way to get the water out of the spillway and to do some basic patching. Again, not a major immediate threat, but we don't want to let it go for another, 3 or 4 years or something like that.
Okay.
All right, and we have one more from the audience. Stacy Johnson, lot number 5589. Asks, what is the estimated cost for the new bocce courts and what's involved in the project? Is the Finance Committee going to review this next week?
So the Finance Committee is going to review this next week. We got 3 bids that we attempted to get. It's very interesting. What we learned in the process of getting those bids is most bocce facilities that exist in cities are built by the Public Works Department in those cities. They don't normally go out and get contractors. So, we don't want to do that. We want to make sure we have a good general contractor in place that can handle the entire project. For those of you who don't know, there was an entire committee put together, task force that Linda Powell led, that led to the specifications of what needed to be built this time. That was also circulated throughout the entire Bocce community for comment, and that became the specification that we let out to bid. So we are looking at a 250,000-ish project to build a first-class bocce facility for Big Canoe. And that's what is going in front of the community next week. And basically, going in front of finance. So what happens to do that is it needs to be built on solid ground. And what we will be doing is using the current basketball facility to do that. That is where we have the flat, compacted earth to put a bocce facility on. And then we are looking at repurposing the old bocce courts, the old bocce courts, the ones that are close to the playground at Wildcat, and turning that more into a sports court facility for the increasing number of young children that we have here, as well as allowing folks to play half-court basketball. There is another task force that's been formed by Linda that includes folks who like to play basketball, as well as young moms of people that have moved here recently, for example, and looking at the needs of their kids and looking at the needs of their teenagers and looking at the needs of the older folks who like to play at least half-court basketball. And that will turn into the specifications for a sports court. And again, that's one more thing that goes into the master planning process. So that is our current update. Again, nothing happens until it goes to the finance committee. Finance committee looks at all this. They look at the business case, look at the return on investment, and then it goes to the board.
Thanks, Scott.
You're welcome.
Any other
questions? That completes the questions from the audience. Thanks so much.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. We will see you next week.
Thank you.
Okay. Good night.